ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਥ ਦੇਣਗੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਇਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਈਕੋਥੈਰੇਪਿਸਟ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਐਂਗਰ ਮੈਨੇਜਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ। ਗੁੱਸਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਗੁੱਸਾ ਜੇਕਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਉਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੀ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਿੰਗ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ, ਕੀ ਅੱਜ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੈ। ਆਓ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵਿਸ਼ਿਆਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਇਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਲੀ ਨਾਲ। ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ।
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Anger, gussa, that's a huge thing in our community and especially in the men.
Yeah.
Why anger arises, you know?
So anger is a natural emotion.
Right.
So when you look at a small child, they will have anger. It's a natural response to get us what we want. We get angry if we feel like somebody's trying to control us. We get angry if we're in danger and we need to respond. So there's natural reasons for anger. But what has happened, I think, with how we've socialized our children is that anger for boys seems to be the only emotion they're allowed to express, right? So for girls, you know, they can be sad, they can be upset, they can be confused. For boys, if boys are crying past a certain age, we say, "Oh, don't do that. You're behaving like a girl."
Right.
Things like that.
Right.
And so what boys learn to do is put all of the other emotions away and only express anger.
Right.
And so that's why for men, as they get older, a lot of men feel kind of disconnected from their feelings. They don't feel a lot of things except it's safe to feel anger, frustration, irritation, those types of emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
So if anger is not controlled, what can it lead up to?
Well, what happens is when all the other emotions are put away and anger is the only emotion that you have, suddenly it becomes explosive. Suddenly it can turn into, you know, violence. It can turn into all sorts of things because underneath anger is always pain.
Right.
Right. So anger is not the real thing that's happening. Underneath that anger, people are hurting about something, and it's coming out as this aggression or this anger.
As you pointed out, you know, if children, like for example in our communities generally, there's a different treatment with boys and girls, and boys are always told that be like a man, you know, and that kind of feeling which is put into them. And then to express their feelings, they don't have anything else to lean upon, and anger is an easy method for them when they grow up. And probably that is one of the reasons we find that a lot of our youngsters, the violence you're talking about or the gang life, that kind of gives them a vindication or a kind of a authority to show their machoism and to show that yes, we are also existing.
Well, and anger is kind of, you know, that extreme anger is what I would call hyper masculinity, right? Where it's so over the top and it's out of control, right? Where it's just about who's biggest, strongest, toughest. But there's all of these other aspects of masculinity that are really critical, like you know, having discipline and structure and order. Those are important qualities.
Right.
And then if you think of it the other way, now I'm going to do something a little complicated. Ready?
Yeah.
Stay with me. So we have masculinity.
Yeah.
Then we have femininity.
Right.
So femininity is about creativity, spontaneity, love, connection. Now, are you saying men shouldn't have any of these things?
No.
Men should have these too.
Absolutely.
And so in a stable, healthy human, we have both the masculine and the feminine qualities.
Right.
But in hyper-masculinity, you've cut off from all these gentler qualities and you're just focused on I'm bigger, stronger, tougher, meaner than you.
Right.
And that's unhealthy.
Absolutely, it's unhealthy. But the way we have been brought up, the society, how it has brought up, and especially in our cultures, you know, whether it's our culture or the mainstream culture, this is the type of thinking which is put into us when we are young.
Right.
So that's what we continue. And for example, a man crying is considered to be a sissy. You know, like what are you doing? That's the kind of approach we have.
Right.
So you're very right. The masculine as well as the feminine qualities, every person has that. But to have that balance is what is required.
Right. And you know, we might not be able to fix what happened to us, but we can absolutely change the next generation, right? So as we see young children growing up, we have to be very thoughtful of what message we're giving them. Are we letting it be safe for them to cry and to have their feelings and have emotion? If we don't, then they grow up to be these adults who hold everything in and then just explode every
a burst,
time.
right? Yeah. So what kind of support, you've given one support, especially for the children, that make them aware or be considerate towards them and make them feel that yes, you also can cry, a boy can cry, a boy can express themselves. What kind of other support can be provided to a person who goes into these rages of anger?
So there's you know, seeing a counselor one-on-one can be very helpful because what we do when we see a counselor is you get to see where does that gussa come from originally. Because this is not just your anger about this certain situation in front of you. This is a lifetime of anger that's been building up, building up, building up, and now you're so angry and every little thing sets you up. So counselor can work with you on uncovering that and healing some of the past.
Right.
There's also men's anger management groups, you know, in different places in the city, and that's also a really useful support for a lot of men.
Right. Saira, as you said, these things can happen anytime, but then of course the support, what you are saying, but you know, there are various other techniques also which one can adopt. For example, today meditation is one thing which a lot of people focus upon and say that if you take out some time for yourself, you can calm yourself, or as a matter of fact, when you're in a fit of rage, just take a deep breath or go out. What other techniques can be adopted?
So those are excellent techniques. So the idea of 10 deep breaths right in the middle of the anger, so you can calm your body down. What you're doing is you're calming your brain down and your physiology. For men especially, another technique is to leave whatever the conflict is, to walk away. And that gives you distance, because otherwise what's activated in your mind is the fight or flight. And if you're going to fight, it's just going to go until somebody gets hurt often, either emotionally, physically. So when men walk away, it's really healthy. Now, in a relationship where perhaps a husband and wife are arguing and he's so angry and he knows he needs to walk away, just important to tell her when you're coming back. So she's not like, he's left and he's never, I'm coming back in 15 minutes, an hour, we'll talk about this tomorrow, something like that. That's really important.
Anything else which can be done towards the end? What other advice as a psychotherapist you would like to give to those people who go into fit of rage of anger?
So you mentioned meditation.
Yeah.
Those of us who have a regular meditative practice, we're training our mind to not be as reactive. And so if that's something else that people can look into, is just 10 or 15 minutes a day, putting aside some time to just sit in stillness and silence, letting the thoughts come and go, and slowly that trains the brain to not respond to everything that happens, and it helps us kind of manage our emotion better as well.
So calming your nerves basically, and then giving yourself some space and time. Of course, if you are in a fit of rage with your spouse, then definitely it's better to go away instead of just standing and just yelling at the top of your voices. Thank you very much for this information. Thanks for coming over here.